Good morning, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, good morning, Chris.
Yes.
All right, cool. I can. Good deal, good deal. So we're going to go ahead and start. If this is being recorded, so we will send it out to everybody as well. But in respect to everybody's time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining me. Not really sure why I did a 9 o'clock class, but I appreciate everybody getting up and getting at it and joining today. So we're going to talk about some basics of commercial real estate. And I've had people to ask me, hey, can you teach me how to do commercial real estate? And my answer is probably not. It's more of an experience thing. So I'm going to go over some basic questions I've gotten in the past and things that I make sure people know before they want to do commercial real estate, before they think about commercial real estate, before they enter into a transaction, because they're very, very basic that a lot of people don't know, and it's completely different from selling a house. So I want, and as an instructor for pre-licensing, I know we don't teach you a dime about commercial real estate. There's nothing at all taught. So in that class. So I want to go over just a few basics, and by all means, we've got an hour today. So if y'all have questions, please raise your hand or just ask them. I've only got about 10 slides to go over. So not a lot of information. Well, a lot of good information, but not a lot of slides. So let's go ahead and get started. I've already flipped by my first slide. So the purpose of this class, or this time together today, is to understand the basics of commercial real estate transactions, what pitfalls to look for, and most importantly, how to get paid, because it can be different than it is in residential real estate. So I don't want you to, one of my main mantras in teaching is work harder, or work smarter, not harder. And I've seen a lot of agents get into a commercial deal and not have their how they're going to get paid wrapped up. They think it's the same way as residential, and it's not. So that's one of the things we want to go over here. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the definition of commercial real estate, just so we're all on the same page. How do we get paid? We're definitely going to talk about that. That's the most important thing. Where do you find properties? Do you look in MLS? Is there another place to look? Or do you just ride down the road and look for signs? I've had a lot of people ask me about buying land and building. They've got a client that wants to build a shop, that wants to build a store. What are some of the very basic things you got to do there before you even start looking, so you can educate your clients on what they need to know and what they need to be on the lookout for if they're looking to do that. And then once you find a property, how in the world do you make a deal? You don't use the 2T offer to purchase. That's for residential properties. What do you use? Look like a professional. So we want you to look like a professional headed into these commercial deals. So we're going to talk about how I've structured some, and how you can structure some deals as well, and some resources for that. Any questions before we dive into that? All right, I warn you, you better talk, or this is going to be a really short class. And I'm only about a quarter of the way through my diet Sundrop, so I've not had all my full caffeine today. So y'all better start talking. All right, first thing we're going to do is define what is commercial real estate. And a lot of times you'll see it noted as CRE. So commercial real estate is property that is used exclusively for business-related purposes, or to provide a workspace rather than a living space, which would instead constitute residential real estate. Most often, commercial real estate is leased to tenants to conduct income-generating activities. This broad category of real estate can include everything from a single storefront to a huge shopping center. Commercial real estate includes several kinds, such as retailers of all kinds, office space, hotel and resorts, strip malls, restaurants, and healthcare facilities. In my experience, there's even more than that. I mean, you can consider a church a commercial real estate, piece of property. To me, the most attractive thing about working with commercial real estate is it's numbers driven. Do the numbers work? And that's not something we're going to dive into in this class. I'm probably going to do a separate class on what those numbers look like and how to judge if a property makes sense for your client and how to compare different properties. A lot of time investors want to know where can they make the most bang for their buck, where can they make more money. And comparing a 4-unit strip mall to a 7-unit strip mall or to a Dollar General can be hard, but we've got mathematical ways of doing that, and that'll be in a separate class that we talk about those. Again, this is going to be a very, when I say high level, kind of 30,000 foot class, very basic questions, and then as we go along this year, we'll dive into these a little bit more. So one of the other things before I change slides is you got to think about if you have a client that's looking to buy a residential property and use it as a rental, how they purchase that property could determine if it's considered commercial or residential, depending on the lender. Okay, so if they buy it without using an LLC or a corporation, then they can keep it as it would still be considered residential from a lender standpoint. The good part about that is it's a lot less down payment. Okay, you can typically get FHA or conventional loan on those, and they don't consider it commercial. Anytime you use a corporation, the transaction is going to be considered commercial. Then you're going to have to have at least 20% down. Your terms on your loans are typically shorter, meaning 15, 20 years instead of 30 years. So your payments are going to be higher. So those are some things that to think about as well when we talk quote unquote commercial real estate. Any questions so far? All right. So how do you get paid? How do you get paid in commercial real estate? This is one of the biggest opportunities residential agents have when they start dealing with commercial. They don't understand how commercial works. So in residential, if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm fairly certain I'm going to look in the MLS and property I'm showing is going to offer 2.5 or 3% commission. And if it's in the MLS, then I know they've got to do it. So I'm guaranteed to get paid if we get under contract, right? And everything closes. Not the case in commercial. A lot of the commercial properties I've listed, we don't offer what we call a co-broke fee or a co-broker fee, meaning the seller is going to pay my fee as a listing agent, but is not going to pay a buyer's agent. So if you've got somebody that is looking to buy commercial property, you need to have that discussion with them up front. You realize you got to pay me, right? And if the listing agent is not going to pay me, then that responsibility is going to fall on you. You got to have that conversation up front because you got to set those expectations. The last thing you want to do is get into a deal and then be headed towards closing And then say, oh, by the way, Mrs. Buyer, you owe me 3% of $1 million purchase price. And you can imagine how that conversation is going to go, right? Probably not very well. So a couple things you can use to do that. Our agency agreement, the 201 exclusive buyer agency agreement, does have a spot you can do it, use it for commercial. But you got to explain to them, again, if the seller's not going to pay a co-broke fee, then Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that responsibility falls on you. And when you sign this buyer agency agreement, you're agreeing to pay me. I bet probably over half of the commercial deals I've done, the buyer doesn't get paid by the seller. Now, on the reverse side of that, if you're representing the seller, one of the things we have done is we can get 4% from the seller because we're not paying a buyer. So we can get paid a little more because you're going to work a little bit harder on a commercial sale than you are a residential sale. So you might be able to get more money out of it. Any questions on what we talked about on this slide? This is one that people tend to overlook, and you better not, or you're going to end up working for free.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's Amy. So I do have a question. If the commercial property is in MLS and they state that there's going to be a referral fee, are they required to pay that because it's MLS, or are there different rules because it's commercial versus residential?
No, Amy, that's a good question. If it's in the MLS, they're required to pay what they advertise.
Great,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
if they're advertising 3% in the MLS, then that's what they've got to pay. That'll be a violation. That'll get them a lot of trouble if they don't pay that.
Hey, Chris.
Got it, thank you.
Hey, I
Any
have a
other
question.
questions?
Yeah, so when you have, let's say you represent the buyer and they contact you and they want to purchase the commercial property, the
All right.
first step is that you ask the listing agent if there's a co-broke.
So one of the things you got to look for if you're looking outside of the MLS, and we're going to talk about a couple of resources, the way to look up properties, but you're probably going to have, if you've got a buyer, you're going to have to ask the agent if the listing agent, if they're going to pay what we call a co-broker fee or a co-broke fee. You need to verify that right up front. So there's no question once you start working on a deal that you're going to get paid.
Okay.
Don't get 2-3 weeks into a deal and still not know where your money's going to come from. Okay. Remember, work smarter, not harder.
And has buyers in
One
the
of the
commercial
things
side-
that has come along quite a bit in my work has been leases. Got somebody looking to lease a space, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Or I got somebody that's looking to open a vape shop and they want to find a place to lease. How can I help them and how can I get paid? My first inclination is to say, I'm going to refer you to somebody else, because those things are hard to do, especially somebody coming from the residential world. And I liken it almost to working with somebody looking for a mobile home. There is a ton of work that goes into it, and you may or may not get paid. Okay, so on commercial leases, typically the way you get paid, if the seller's going to pay you, they're going to pay you a percentage of the total amount of the lease. So if somebody signs a 3-year lease for, just say $1,000 a month, so that's 36 months, the total amount is $36,000 for that lease. You're going to get paid a percentage of that $36,000. But again, you got to make sure that you have an agreement in writing of who's going to pay you. Okay. You got to make sure who's going to pay you. Now, if you've got somebody looking to open up a shop in a strip mall and you're helping them look for properties, what do you think they've got $3,000-4,000 to help or to pay you? Do you think they're going to be able to help you? That's why I don't like to represent tenants in residential or commercial situations, because honestly, the money's not there. My time would be better spent elsewhere. Has anybody in here helped somebody look for a commercial space to rent? I don't want to be a negative Nancy when it comes to commercial tenants, but we got to judge on where our time's best spent, I think.
I have not. This is Denisha Watson. I have not, but I will definitely keep that in the front of my mind as I enter the commercial real estate world.
Yeah, Demisha, I got to be honest, just going off my experience, it's not worth the time and the effort. It's really not. And it's good to have you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us and doing
Absolutely. This. Absolutely. All right. Where do you find properties at? So there's a couple of options you can have. First one is really not listed on here, driving around. A lot of what we deal with in our areas are just properties you see a sign on, right? That's a good way to find them. But another way is, of course, the MLS, but you're not going to find a lot of, if you've got a serious investor or a serious buyer, you're not going to find the properties they need in the MLS, okay? If you got somebody looking for land to build, or a developer looking for land to build, probably not going to find it in the MLS, or not 100% of it. If you got a developer looking for land for a Dollar General, or if you got somebody looking for a Dollar General, those aren't going to be in the MLS. Definitely doesn't hurt to have the MLS, but it's probably not going to be the resource that finds you 100% of your answers for your clients, like it is for residential. The next one over is LoopNet. LoopNet, and the next one over is CoStar. They're actually owned. You can see the logos are the same. They're owned. They're the same company. LoopNet is one you can find properties on and not have to pay. Of course, there's a limit to what you can dig into there. CoStar is one that I call them major brokers, but the big boys out of Charlotte, downtown Charlotte, those folks are using, and that will cost you, I think the basic plan is like $400 a month, but it does give you tremendous exposure to people that are actually looking for properties, that are actually looking for what you need. So if you're going to, typically on a commercial deal, you should make more than you do on a residential deal. So maybe you got a little bit more money to spend, and you can dig into what CoStar has. CoStar has a lot of functionality with doing CMAs on commercial properties, which are not easy to do. They can give you properties that have sold. They can give you property information on sellers, contact information on sellers, a lot of good market analysis, just a lot deeper and a lot richer information than what you're going to find in LoopNet, and definitely what you're going to find in the MLS. I'm a member of CoStar. I've got a couple pieces of commercial land that I've got advertised in there because we're looking for big developers. And this is where all the traffic has come from, has been CoStar. If you've got a commercial property that you're looking that may be coming up and you need it advertised, let me know. I'll be glad to work with you and advertise it in CoStar for you. I've done that for a couple of our agents for a small percentage, of course, but I don't have a problem sharing that with you. So you don't have to sign up for CoStar and pay $400 a month. Any questions about how to find properties? One of the things that commercial agents do probably better than residential agents do, because we have to, I say we, like I'm a commercial, consider myself a commercial agent, but they have to network, and networking with other commercial brokers will help you tremendously in finding properties that fit your client's needs. Commercial brokers do that a lot compared to residential agents. Any questions on how to find properties?
This is Demisha again. So say that you see some, well, I recently ran into a customer, excuse me, and they have some commercial property, vacant land that is listed. It's 12 acres and she's trying to sell it herself. She's doing the FSBO thing as a commercial, selling the commercial land. How would I approach her?
Demisha, that's a great question. I would tell her that you can give her exposure that she can't get as a FSBO, because people that are looking to buy commercial land are probably not driving around looking for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're looking,
Mhm.
they're looking on LoopNet, they're looking on CoStar.
Okay.
Yeah, they're looking, and just tell them that you can get more eyeballs on her property than what she's getting. And you can get, how do you put this? You can get the right eyeballs on her property
Correct.
instead of
Thank
just
you.
people driving by. Yeah. And they're not
Yes.
looking on Zillow for commercial properties. I promise you that.
Correct. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Mhm. Good question. Anybody else got any questions? All right. One of the big questions I get is, hey, I got somebody looking to build a shop. Can you help me find land? Boy, that is a minefield in and of itself. That's a really hard question, and you've got to know what you're doing or have somebody working with you that knows what they're doing. Or you could cost your client a lot of money, and then if you do that, they're coming after you. So a couple of steps to do, you got to do your research of what type of business do they have. All right, what type of business do they have? And one point I don't have on here is, where are they looking to be at? Do they want to be Concord, Kannapolis, Albemarle, Salisbury, Sanford? Where are they going? Where are they looking to be at? Then once you find out where they're looking to be at, then you got to start digging into the planning and zoning and the land use controls that those municipalities have. So if you're looking to build a garage that services cars, you got to be very specific, reach out to the planning departments of those municipalities and ask them, where is this allowed? Or I got somebody looking for an acre lot on Highway 2427. Is this parcel, can it get rezoned? Is there a chance it could get rezoned? Because most planning departments are going to tell you if you have a chance to get rezoned. Again, the problem you're going to run into is time that it takes to go through that process, to get rezoned, to go through conditional planning stages. Those are all very, very time consuming. So I've got a piece of property right now we're building storage units on in China Grove. And we started this process over a year and a half ago. And as of March, I believe it was March 8th or 3rd, sometime in the 1st of March, we finally got our approvals to move forward with everything. So it's been a year and a half process. So you got to make sure that your clients know this is not going to be an overnight solution. You can't go close on it in 30 days. I guess you could if you wanted to, but I would warn my folks not to do that, because you may end up with a piece of property you can't do what you want to do with on, if that makes sense. Going through the planning and zoning phase, is going to take probably 3 to 4 months minimum. So now you got to figure out how to structure your deals. Are you looking for a 4-month due diligence period or an inspection period? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the last thing I got here on research is watershed. What in the world do I mean by watershed? Well, if you're looking to build a property, you can't build, typically can't build on 100% of that land. So if I've got an acre of land, I can't build a shop and pavement on the entire acre without it being very, very costly. Because when rain falls, it's got to go somewhere. And now these municipalities put that burden on you. So they're going to make you figure out where that rainfall is going to go. On our storage units, we've got a 6-acre parcel. We can only use 2 acres of it. We've got 4 acres that we can't do anything with. We're in a what they call in Rowan County a critical watershed, meaning we can only use 36% of our acreage. So we can only put a driving surface or buildings on 36% of that land. So you got to realize if your client's looking for an acre, are they really going to get to use an acre? Does he really need to be looking for 2 acres? Does that make sense to everybody? Those are the questions you need to know to ask, because you don't want, again, you don't want to help somebody buy a piece of land, they close on it in 21 days because they paid cash, but then they get into the government side of it and they can't do anything with it. Now you're going to have a mad customer. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
it
it
does.
does.
Gina, what did you say, Gina? Did you say no?
No, I say yes, it does.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, cool. Next step is design. If you're looking to buy a piece of property, you're going to have a site plan, meaning something drawn up by an engineer that you can submit to the city or the county that shows what you're going to do with the property. That's not cheap. That's not a short process. Getting that approved is not a short process. We probably went back and forth with Rowan County 3 or 4 or 5 times to get ours approved. You got to go through environmental when we're talking about watersheds again, and that's all got to be on your site plans. But on top of that, when I say design, what kind of building is your folks looking to build? Are they looking to build one with dock doors? How much parking do they need? You start talking about parking, you start talking about paving, you start getting into watershed. How much impervious surface do you have on your property? This is all stuff that's going to be dictated by the municipality you're looking in. So this is not a simple process. It's not a short process by any means. And then lastly, the offer. How long is your due diligence going to be, or your inspection period? Typically in a commercial deal, we're going to call it an inspection period. I've tried to buy land from people before that are for sale by owners, and they just don't understand our process. We tried to buy one early last year, and we told them it's going to take 6 months before we want a 6-month inspection period. And we were offering them earnest money, and we were going to do all of our inspections. We were going to go through the county, get our site plans approved, get the zoning redone. And once that all got approved, if it all got approved, we'd move forward with closing. The person we were buying the property from did not understand that, and they didn't like the fact that we were going to take 6 months, tie up their property, and we might be able to back out 5 months into it. They didn't like it. So we didn't get the property. But there are too many variables in this process for us not to go 4 months or 6 months, depending on the complexity of the property. So if your client is looking to build a piece of land, build on a piece of land, a commercial site, your best bet is going to be to reach out to the local municipality where they're looking to build and ask them what that process is going to look like and then give them an estimated time frame. Any questions on looking to build?
Yes, this is Demisha again. So if we go and we do this research and we got to take it back to our client so we can seem like we know what we're talking about, is there something, what are we giving them, like a feasibility report or something to say, hey, this is what it is, and you just talk through it with them?
So Demisha, that's a good question. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to get everything in writing from the local municipality or the local planner. And I'm going to ask them, all right, what is the process to rezone this property from residential to light industrial, for example? And I'm going to have them email me the process. And one of those things is one of those steps I guarantee is going to be submit a site plan. And so, yeah, I'm going to go through it with them and show them, here's your process. You got to get a site plan from a licensed engineer, a civil engineer. So yeah, that's really going to be the process. It's not the very first step, again, to me, is talking to the local municipality to get their steps, because it may be different from municipality to municipality, right? Town of Albemarle may be different than Rowan County, or may be different than Wadesboro. I don't know. But get the process, get the first steps up front from them, and then let your folks do the work with getting the site plans and getting all that done.
Sounds good. So this is more of a hands-on. This is really more hands-on for our client rather than us. We can get them the information, but it's going to be a lot of hands-on for them. Site plans, civil engineering, I heard.
Yeah.
So this is like really hands-on for them.
Yeah, very hands-on, because as you as an agent, I would not want you making those decisions for them. When you're talking about getting a site plan from an engineer, you're talking about where's the driveway going to be? How many parking spots are we going to have? Where's the building going to be located? Where's the utilities located? Those aren't questions you as an agent should be answering unless you've got ownership in it. I would put that work back on them.
Thank you.
No problem. Good question. Anybody else got any questions on those? All right. How do you structure a deal? How do you structure a deal? Obviously, you don't use a 2T offer to purchase, or if you want to look like a professional, you don't anyway. If I'm buying, say we're buying a business or previously existing or an existing business. Okay, and I had a person or an agent in our office want me to help them with a client that's buying a garage. So how do we go forward with that? Well, I had a business in it before. So we're going to use what we call a letter of intent instead of an offer to purchase up front. And what a letter of intent does is it gets preliminary commitments from one party to do business with another. And it outlines all of those items that you need from the seller to have an idea if you want to do this or not. The third bullet point there says LOIs are useful when two parties are initially brought together to hammer out broad strokes of a deal before resolving the finer points of a transaction. If you're buying an apartment building, Well, no, we just bought some storage units in Virginia. Part of our letter of intent was we need to see your rent rolls from your tenants for the last, I don't know, 3 months. And what rent rolls are is just a ledger of rents that have come in, who's renting, and get copies of those leases. That letter of intent is going to lay out all of that stuff. Obviously, you can tell these items, they don't have them spelled out in a 2T offer to purchase. So that's why you should use something different. So this letter of intent is going to lay out, we need, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we need copies of current leases. We need all your rent rolls for the past 3 months. We need environmental reports, zoning permits, any permits you've had, any permits for new construction you've had. It's going to lay out all of the items that you need to make a decision on the property. It can ask for certain stipulations. It can ask for timelines. Most letters of intent include non-disclosure agreements and non-solicitation provisions. Well, the non-disclosure agreement means if Amy and I go into a deal together and I'm going to buy Amy's apartment building, I'm not going to go out on social media and blab that I'm looking to buy Amy's apartment building. Basically, it means you shut up until you get the deal done. Most letters of intent have a non-binding clause in it, meaning it's not binding to the seller. They have to sell to you. This is just an agreement that we're working towards a contract. You may hear of letters of intent called a term sheet or a memorandum of understanding. They're basically the same thing. So one thing you want to do as a buyer, you want to get on the same page as the seller before you as a buyer start spending thousands of dollars on environmental studies or rezoning applications or whatever else you need to spend money on. So it's really a good guide to, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we want to do. Here's the price that we want to offer. Here's the earnest money we're going to offer. Here's the time period we're going to do everything. But here's what we need from you. A, B, C, D, and E. And then you start negotiating with that letter of intent. And once you get that hammered out, you pay them the earnest money. Then you start doing your due diligence or your inspections. And then that letter of intent is going to tell the seller and the buyer when you will convert this letter of intent to a contract. So what you're going to do then, once you get all of your terms agreed upon, once everything is provided to you, you'll send that letter of intent that's signed by both parties to an attorney, a real estate attorney, who will turn around and make it into a binding contract. Any questions on a letter of intent? And I've got copies of them. These are things that you can draw up. It doesn't have to be drawn up by an attorney. Letter of intent does not. I've got one that I've used in several deals, and we just changed the verbiage on it. Changed the property description, changed the purchase amount, changed the due deal or the inspection period, and really plug and play. And you can find those online as well. So the letter of intent don't have to be necessarily drawn up by an attorney. Once you get to a contract, though, that needs to go to a real estate attorney.
Hey, Chris, could you share your letter of intent with us?
Any questions on the letter of intent?
Hey, Chris, could you share your letter of intent with us?
If anybody would like a copy of one, I can send you one that I've used. Just let me know. All right. Once we get the letter of intent squared away, hammered out, so now we've got a framework of how this contract should go. We're going to go to a contract. So we're going to send that letter of intent signed by both parties. We're going to send it to a real estate attorney. And it's going to be, of course, it's going to be more detailed. It's going to have all the legalese in it, and it's going to be binding. Now you're into a contract. Now you're on hard time frames. Now you run the risk of breaching a contract. So if you can get everything hammered out in that letter of intent, and let's go to contract, let's get the sucker closed. And folks, that's all I've got today. Any questions on anything commercial related? Again, I didn't go too deep. If you come to this class expecting to learn to be a commercial agent in one class, I'm sorry, you're going to be disappointed. That's something that takes time and experience. Selling a 4-bedroom house in South Charlotte is pretty much the same as selling one in Concord or Mooresville or Winston-Salem. Not necessarily the same when you're talking about commercial real estate. Completely different, and you don't run across the same property every time. Every garage is different. Every strip center is different. Every apartment building is different. So it's not as redundant as residential real estate is, which can be, keeps it interesting, but it also keeps you on your toes because you got to know what to look out for. So one of the next classes we'll talk about commercial real estate math and how to compare deals. But any questions on what we talked about today?
Chris, it's Gina. Who within Lantern can help us to do a commercial deal? And what are the fee that they charge aside
All
from
right,
you?
folks. Well, Demisha, I appreciate you joining us, and I got your email, and I will send you that copy of that letter of intent.
Yes. Can you hear me, Chris?
Anybody else wants one, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and let me know. And if you have questions or you have any suggestions on the type of commercial class you would like to see, please let me know as well. And I appreciate y'all.
Chris, can you hear
Australia, I
me?
couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Gina, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I think you are
I don't know why I can't hear you.
I think you are not. Are you listening to me, Chris? Hello.
Hello, Chris. Can you hear me?
I think for some reason he's not listening.
Okay.
Gina, I haven't heard you yet. You want to type your question into the chat box?
Chris, can you hear me? This is Sherry.
I think he has problems
Sorry,
with
folks,
the
evidently we have
audio.
audio problems. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get Gina's question. Anybody else got any questions before we go? Looks like everybody's having audio issues. I'm not sure what it is. Gina's question is, who can help us in Lantern with a commercial deal? Gina, I'll be glad to help you. Again, commercial is something that if you've never done it, don't do it by yourself, because it will get you, it can get you sent to the commission in a heartbeat. you got to use one of the things that we owe our clients is skill, care, and diligence. And if you don't have experience with commercial, you don't have the skill to do it. So that'll get you in front of the Real Estate Commission in a heartbeat. Chena, the
here's-
fees right now on, oh, I heard somebody, but one
Okay,
of the-
it's me,
the
it's me,
fees-
it's me, Chris.
Oh, I got you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, you have problem before listening to us, I think. I'm just wondering if you have a list of realtors within Lantern that can help us to do the deal. I mean, aside from you, and what do they charge?
Chena, I know a couple of people that have done commercial deals that we could talk to. I don't know what they would charge. It depends on the depth that they would need to help you. And I can send out a list of people that I would feel comfortable referring you to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Glad I can finally hear you.
Me too.
Hey, Chris, this is Sherry. Can you hear me?
Hey, Sherry. Yeah.
Quick question. I know you have offered for listings to be put in CoStar through your account for a fee. But if someone is wanting to work with a buyer, they probably need to get their own account, right? Because they wouldn't have access to yours to do searches and things. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably so, Sherry. And if you can't locate it in the MLS, you can't locate it through LoopNet, through the free service.
Then it'd be a good idea to get your own account.
Probably so. Yeah, I can help you out, but I'm not going to help. I hate this. This is going to sound terrible, but I'm not going to keep running searches and running searches and running searches and running searches for you, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, and I don't think most agents would expect that. That's why I was thinking that if working with buyers, it might be ideal for you as an agent to get your own account there. But okay, that's
Yeah,
all.
if
Thank you.
it's going to be, yeah, no problem. If it's going to be financially feasible, right? If it's something, because again, CoStar is not cheap. But if it's going to be something that you think you could turn around really quickly, then yeah, I would recommend you getting your own.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else got any questions, since I can hear you now?
This is Demisha. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say thank you for this. I had kind of lost audio. I was in the closing attorney office, but I had lost audio, and I really want to appreciate it. Tell you thank you so much for just kind of getting me over the hump, because that's really what I needed. Just those questions answered that I had, and I think you did a great job. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Demisha. Hey, I'll put my number in the chat box there, Demisha, if you have any questions or need to contact me for anything like that. I'd be glad to help.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, no problem. Anybody else got a question? All right, y'all. I appreciate your time, and be on the lookout for our next commercial class coming up probably sometime in May. I appreciate y'all. And if you have questions for me, just shoot me an email or a text, and I'll be glad to help you any way possible. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Y'all have a good day.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye, bye.